So you made the decision you weren't signing those bail conditions. This was so you'd spent one night in prison at that point, at the Dandenong remand or somewhere else?
Dandenong remand.
Right. And then having had that experience, you still had the spine to say, I'm not signing, even though I know that that's going to hold me in here for even longer. Did you have any inkling of how long that would be? Because you'd be awaiting a bail hearing in front of a judge, presumably, or a rehearing. Did you know at the time how long that was likely to be?
Well, actually, I had already considered that it would be all the way until November 10th.
Yeah,
so
all the way until the trial.
That's what my lawyer said to me. He said,
Yeah.
You could be there till the November 10th. And I said, okay. So I was prepared to do that, to be honest. So at 22 days actually was just enough time to have a break and not too much time to be psychologically damaged. So it was a good number.
I'm very glad to hear it. Now, you were in isolation because I'm assuming here you chose not to take a COVID test, and so therefore they just could have sort of shoved you away in a corner somewhere. Was that almost a relief for you? Were you happy not to be in GPOP?
So at the beginning, I was. It was interesting. It was a 14-day. It was supposed to be 14 days, and then I was going to be let out. But while I was in there on like the 5th or 6th day, the policy changed and it turned to 19 days, which is interesting. So I thought the last 3 days, I thought I might be able to go out, and I had been speaking to other prisoners because you can speak to them through the door. You can't see anyone's faces, but so I'd been speaking and getting a bit of a bit of information on how to conduct myself, and I'd been mentally preparing for that, speaking to the staff and stuff. And to be honest, part of me kind of wanted to experience it now that I was so close, because not many law-abiding, tax-paying citizens get to have this story. Imagine a dinner table. Like, what's the craziest thing that's happened to you? I went to prison for 22 days. Like, I mean, you can't really get any better than that, right? And I love a good story. So I kind of wanted to go out there, but it's weird. After the 19 days, they still just they moved me from COVID isolation to just isolation. And then the other girls in there were actually girls who had been kicked out of the open prison because they were too dangerous. So
too violent.
But I got 1 hour. I got half an hour on a treadmill for the first time. So, just so everyone knows, I didn't go outside once. There was no sunshine. There was no outdoor activity. I actually got banned from the phones because I was trying to run RDA from within the prison, which you're not allowed to do. I'm
reasonably sure that exceeds the limits set out in certain war crimes articles. And of course, people will say, "Oh, yes, but you're not a war criminal. It's a different set of rules." Okay, it's a different set of rules, but I'm pretty sure that anything beyond, I believe it's 14 days in isolation, if you do that to a prisoner of war, is considered to be torture.
Look, I don't know. I haven't even looked into that sort of thing. Like I said, it didn't feel torturous at the time, obviously, but but for someone who hasn't maybe dealt with the demons as well as I had already done in my past, I think that would have been really hard. I was really blessed to have the ability to get through it. Excuse me. But
if I can say, I'm tremendously glad that you did. Because I was watching as best as I could whilst I was busy with everything else, what was happening with you, and trying to think through when they come for me, because, they've arrested a lot of other people. There's when they arrest someone with the profile of a Monica Smit, obviously lots of people hear about it, but there's plenty of other people being arrested who didn't have that profile. And so these arrests are ongoing. And I knew that my time would come. Eventually my name would rise to the top of the list and they'd be at my door. And by watching you and by watching other people, I was able to put in place an action plan. Thankfully, I didn't need most of it because I was out in 3 hours. And again, I think that's partly because they got burned by you. But we had a full action plan in place. There's videos that were due to be released at certain times if I ended up having to stay in prison for the same reason that you did. There were a number of things, certain international journalists that I've got friendships with as a result of my 12 years of work, etc. There was a part of me that was almost hoping, because if they would have stepped on such a hand grenade, it would have just absolutely blown up. As it was, I was released in 3 hours and it still went around the world and was being reported on in the US and in a few other places as well. So I was able to watch and learn from what happened to you. So thank you for being my tutorial.
Well, sorry for ruining it for you. I mean,
No, that's right. You stole my fun, Monica. How dare you? All right. So then the day comes when you're released, and you have the coolest engagement story of anyone that I know. You managed to outdo my engagement story with my wife. So thanks again, Monica. You're just ruining everything.
Sorry.
And then you emerge to discover kind of what's happened. And a a lot had happened in the time that you were in, and a lot had happened in the world of RDA. A lot had happened. There was the fundraiser that happened. Was that you? Was that RDA set that up, or was that somebody else set that up? What happened with that?
Well, obviously, I had no idea about it
Yeah.
because I was in prison and I had no phone privileges. So I don't know. It was there was quite a few people helping manage RDA when I was gone. So I actually think some of my family members and my staff members actually had a harder time than I did. I was kind of protected there. No one expected anything from me. I just slept and did what I wanted, you know. So anyway, I didn't know about it, but I was very shocked to hear about it. And you know, we've raised obviously more than we need for my finances. So what I've done is I've emailed the whole database of donators, and I've asked them if they would mind if I repurpose that money for only legal battles that I think are good, setting precedences. So we've got about three different cases that we're going to support, and we're going to communicate with that. And obviously, if people wanted a refund, they were able to get a refund. So we've done all that properly, and they'll be happy to hear when we tell them the sorts of cases that we can support with the money that they've given. So we're being really careful to make sure it's separate, of course, and respect what they wanted. But yeah.
And this is a thing that I've noticed, and I want to hark back to the episode I did a little while ago with Carly. A current affair came for her, tried to destroy her life. Before that, she released an Instagram video. She was a small business owner, had no real profile. She poured her heart out on an Instagram video, and it went viral and got viewed 40 million times. And someone, not her, someone started a GoFundMe on her behalf.
Oh no!
It flew up to about $65,000 or $60,000, whatever it was, and she was literally asking the guy to shut it down. And he, I think, sincerely wanted to do the right thing. Was like, no, we're going to raise as much as we can for you. And it became a massive problem for her. And in the end, she handed all the money back. She had already paid a bill with some of the money, so she handed everything back bar that money, and basically said, fuck off, get lost with your problems. Like, I don't want this in my life. So sometimes well-meaning people can do things like that, and it actually becomes a massive problem and a massive headache. There's a lot of people, I hope you don't mind me saying, you became a controversial figure as a result of the arrest. And a lot of people's gripe with you is actually the fundraiser. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure people understood from this interview was that was actually out of your hands. And so I'm glad that we've covered that, because I think it's just financial integrity is an incredibly important thing, and you're right to judge people who do the wrong thing with other people's money. That's completely acceptable, but you should listen to the person that you're criticizing before you criticize them. Actually understand what happened.
And can I say that on that note is, unfortunately, because people are experiencing so much pain and they're so desperate for results, that there are scams out there. I absolutely do not blame them for thinking however they think. But then you've got to look at the actions from the organization or the person before you judge. And we had a court case for Pete Allen from South Australia who got fired from the mining. And it was my first fundraiser that I got involved with. And we raised $25,000 in 3 days. He actually pulled out of the court case and I refunded all the money. So I think I've built that sort of trust with the people that know me. But obviously from the outside, it's like, this girl goes to prison and then they fundraise $300,000. Like this girl's getting rich in prison. But like, obviously, if anyone understands my character, like I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I did anything disrespectful to the people that support me. I'd rather just go back to prison and, you know.
And the same things happened with me with so I launched the fundraiser for the documentary Battleground Melbourne, which you can find on my Facebook page or in my bio on Instagram. And that was going okay. I'd raised about 1/3 of the minimum budget that I needed to make that a viable documentary project, until I got arrested. And within about 48 hours of me being arrested, we'd raised the entire minimum budget. So that minimum budget had been met. And so I'm actually going to give Victoria Police a credit. At the end of the film, I'm actually going to say thank you to Victoria Police for helping to raise the funds for this particular documentary. I mean, the timing could not have been more perfect. But there is this weird psychological thing that goes on. I'll give you a few anecdotes from myself before I throw it back to you for your thoughts on this. People are looking for a villain. And so often they try and find the villain in the person who is very close to agreeing with them, but not quite. And so there's this idea of controlled opposition. Oh, this person is controlled opposition. I get that said about me on a regular basis. And what controlled opposition is someone that you almost agree with, but not quite. Right? Oh no, they're wrong on that thing. They're controlled opposition because they're trying to lead people astray on this. I had another incident on the Wednesday when I was at the shrine, and yes, I'm quite happy to admit I was at the protests. I had this young tradie, because the tradies had suddenly taken over the whole protest movement. It had all gone a bit sideways, in my opinion. If you watch my live streams from the time, and my slow chats from the time, I explain all of that. And I had this young guy who decided that I must be a cop. I'm not quite sure how he decided that. And so he starts trying to point me out and call me out as a cop and trying to attract attention to me because I was this infiltrator. And then someone else had to calm him down and go, no, mate, this is Topher. I recognize him. He's all right. Like, there's this, a lot of people are psychologically geared up and on edge and looking for an enemy. They're looking for someone to kind of, I guess, target that energy at, a little bit like what you were saying very early on. People have got all this pent up energy and they've got nowhere to kind of put it, and they end up targeting the wrong people. So from there, you came out of prison, you had to readjust to the world as it had become and make decisions about the way forward. What's the way forward for Monica Smit walking out of prison after 22 days? What was your decision?
So the first thing I was really excited to see is how well my staff had done without me. And it made me realize that if I could get the every day-to-day workings of RDA kind of going without me, because I used to have my hands in everything, Topher. I used to do all the posting, everything.
Yep.
I was working 12 to 14-hour days. I was not really happy with that at the time, and I was going backwards with my health and things like that. So I needed that circuit breaker, which I don't, but so when I came out, I was like, you know what? I don't have to do everything all the time straight away. I can just hold on and breathe a little bit more.
You've clearly got good people around you, given what happened while you were in.
Well, that's right. I mean, there was some messy things, definitely. But what I really want to focus on now, Topher, is I'm kind of done trying to inform people now, because I feel like the information is out there.
Yep.
Like, I'm happy to share current news and write new articles of new content. Well, not me, but other people. But I'm kind of done trying to wake people up, okay? Because if they're not awake now, they're probably not open to it. And secondly, the information is there. Like, it's all over the place, right? So for me, the way forward is legally and through Parliament. And what I'm going to do as a contributor is I'm going to get out as much content as I can. So now, I want to get a professional studio, and I just want to do interview after interview, and I want to connect with everyday Australians that aren't even in politics or about COVID. Maybe we can talk about something completely unrelated to COVID. I want to diversify a little bit more in that way and let RDA kind of run itself. And do you want me to go into the UAP stuff now, or did you want to phrase that?
Yeah, sure. Look, because there's a lot to talk about with politics. I would love to hear, because my instinctive reaction is that this is a good thing. But I'd love for you to talk me through the thought process, how it came about. And then I'd love to chat with you about the implications and why I think it's actually a good thing.
Okay, sure. So the political, again, the legal side of things is, just so everyone knows, RDA has hired in-house legal counsel now. So he's going to be giving legal advice on the website and things like that. And he'll check over things that I write to make sure that they're good as well. Because as you know,
bail conditions.
I've been pretty green and I've made all the mistakes, and it's been fun and rocky and hard for other people to watch, but I'm getting better. So that's good.